On a wind-scoured night in February of 2024, while hauling a half-empty refrigerated trailer from Flagstaff to Albuquerque along I-40, I pulled onto the shoulder near mile marker 237 in eastern Arizona after my CB radio sputtered an automated emergency tone followed by total static. And what happened during that unplanned stop still echoes every time my rig's tack dips below 1500 RPM. The highway was barren, no taillights ahead, no headlights behind, only a crescent moon washing the desert in tarnished silver. Yet the instant I killed the engine, an uncanny hush smothered everything, as though the wind paused mid-gust and coyotes held their breath. Even the reefer's compressor cycled off, despite its thermostat reading 38 degrees, which should have triggered constant hum. And stepping from the cab, I felt the air wobble with pressure, like the moment before thunder. Hazard flashes painted the asphalt amber, but beyond their strobe, the darkness swallowed depth cues, leaving only the green reflective gleam of the milepost 237 floating disembodied. I tried the handheld to reach a buddy, convoying an hour east, but the radio produced a single human breath, long and measured, that terminated in the click of someone switching channels. 2 more tries yielded the same exhale, each time closer, so I set the mic down. While inspecting fuses under the hood, I heard gravel crunch behind the trailer, footsteps slow, deliberate, yet the mirrors showed nothing. I slammed the hood, swung behind the trailer, and froze. In the dust, midway between tires and median, stood an old payphone mounted on a crooked timber post, handset dangling, receiver light pulsing faint red. The whole contraption was so out of place it jarred my senses. I'd driven this stretch weekly and never seen roadside phone service since the 90s, but curiosity or fatigue pushed me nearer until I could read the cracked plastic placard. Local calls only, $0. The handset swung like a metronome in the wind that still made no sound. A screech owl barked overhead, the only living noise, and the reefer unit kicked back on abruptly with a metallic groan that startled me into grabbing the phone just to stop its pendulum. The moment my fingers touched the cold plastic, the line cut static, and a voice, my dispatcher's, said my name twice, then asked why I'd activated the cargo alarm. Before I could respond, the line popped and another voice overlapped. Feminine, whispering coordinates identical to my current GPS, then adding arrived early, clock starting. Both voices dissolved into a tone, 3 notes descending, and the call ended. I shoved the handset onto the cradle. It fell straight through, as if no cradle existed, clattering against metal plates that hadn't been there a blink before. My headlights suddenly flared bright without ignition, carving twin cones down the interstate, illuminating a second semi idling 40 yards behind mine. Same make, same company decals, same dented fender I'd patched with rivets last summer. Its cab door opened, but the interior dome cast no light. Instead, a silhouette climbed down, a mirror image of my frame, ball cap, reflective vest, and walked toward my tractor, passing beneath the payphone without disturbance. I retreated, stumbled against the trailer, and the duplicate paused as though hearing my boot scuff, head canting like a malfunctioning gimbal. His face remained hidden under brim shadow, yet I recognized the frayed bill stitching I'd chewed during baseball on holds. The reefer shrieked, temperature alarm reading 237 degrees Fahrenheit, though freight was frozen burritos, and steam jetted from vents as if the unit burned propane instead of diesel. Duplicate me reached the driver's side door of my cab, placed a palm on the handle, and the headlights of his truck winked out, plunging half the world into darkness while mine stayed glaring. Instinct overrode terror. I bolted around the trailer nose and clambered into the passenger door, slamming locks. Through cracked windshield, I saw the doppelganger facing the glass, but where eyes should be, reflected only the flashing amber of hazards like 2 warning beacons. He pressed his other hand to the driver window, a perfect circle of frost spidered outward despite the desert warmth. Then he spoke, muffled yet unmistakable in my own timbre. Clock started, off-duty ends when silence breaks. His truck's headlights reignited behind him, now angled toward us, and I glimpsed its cab number 237, my fleet ID reversed. I fumbled ignition, engine coughed alive. Reefer alarm ceased, temperature dropping back to 38. As I threw the rig into gear, the payphone erupted in rings so sharp they vibrated steering column bolts. Duplicate me stepped back, melting into the glare until only his shadow remained etched on dust. I punched the throttle, merging onto I-40, mirrors shaking. In them, the second truck rolled forward, merging behind at exact distance to keep its lights hidden by my trailer width. 40 miles later, I barreled into the lights of Holbrook, took exit shoulder, and the pursuer evaporated. No headlights, no brake dust, just empty asphalt stretching east. At a truck stop, I inspected the trailer reefer log, recorded a spike to 237 degrees Fahrenheit for 61 seconds, then normalized. Burrito pallets remained rock solid, their plastic wrap marked by perfect frost circles that matched a human palm. I checked dispatch logs. No alarm, no radio contact since departure, but the satellite ping list showed a phantom call from my number at 2:37 a.m. Duration 3 notes descending. Weeks on, my route still crosses mile marker 237, yet CB channels go silent there, and if I tap scan, I hear only my own breath returning, louder, until I switch off before the payphone appears in headlights. The company has no tractor numbered 237, yet way station cameras occasionally flag a duplicate plate shadowing my rig between that marker and Holbrook, always vanishing before officers intercept, leaving behind an archival image, 2 identical trucks nose to tail. Hazard flashes sinking like heartbeat monitors, while a payphone stands between lanes, handset swinging, even though the wind in the still photo looks completely unnaturally calm. During a lightning-cracked dusk in July of 2022, high in Oregon's Willamette National Forest, I hiked the final mile to Cascade Peak Lookout, a 60-foot wooden tower built in 1933 that the Forest Service had reopened as a volunteer post when wildfire smoke throttled the valley, and by midnight, alone among trembling Douglas fir crowns, I learned why the tower's radio log contained a line penciled every summer since the 60s that simply read, "Reply received, relay terminated." My task sounded straightforward: 4 nights, eyes on horizon, hourly check-ins by handheld VHF to Sweet Home Dispatch. The climb-up creaking steps felt like ascending into a thunderhead, heat lightning spidered violet undercast above the South Santiam River, and the cabin atop the scaffolding, 10 by 10 feet of plywood, glass on all sides, glowed in my headlamp like a lantern hung for ghosts. Inside sat a steel cot, a cast-iron stove cold until October, and the battered Motorola base station wired to a whip antenna that stabbed dark clouds. Orientation materials warned the landline had been cut by rockfall years ago. Radio was life. At 10 p.m. I made my first call, voice echoing calm, "Lookout 1 to Sweet Home, no smoke, 360 clear." Dispatch crackled back, "Good copy, stay safe." 10 minutes later, static erupted on Channel 5. Through the hiss, I caught fragments. Cascade look, copy, channel unknown. Assuming another lookout tower testing frequencies, I switched to 3 to advise protocol, but reply chased me louder. Words garbled, except coordinates that marked Cascade Peak exactly. My scalp prickled. I shut the handset, chalked it up to atmospheric bounce. Midnight thunder rolled nearer, but no visible ignition. My beam swept treetops, revealing only snowfall of moths. I logged the second hourly call. As soon as dispatch signed off, the Motorola speaker popped and a childlike voice bled through, thin as cassette tape left in sun, saying "relay ready," followed by my full name. Middle initial included, something I never surrendered on volunteer paperwork. I keyed transmit, demanded identity, silenced, then a distant tapping, 5 beats like knuckles on wood, repeating every 10 seconds. Outside, dead calm, yet the tower itself began ticking at the same rhythm, wooden joints expanding, though the air had cooled since sundown. At 12:17, the tapping ceased, all radios silent. I relaxed shoulders, poured instant coffee. Then the cabin phone, supposedly severed, rang twice, no rotary dial, just shrill analog bells. I stared until it rang a third time, picked up, no line hum, only open air. Then my own 10 p.m. check-in replayed, warped slightly, like someone turning a reel too slow. After the last syllable, the child voice whispered copy and the line snapped dead. I yanked the cord ends frayed, no power. 1 a.m. thunderhead swallowed the moon. I keyed dispatch, static, tried repeaters, empty. I stepped onto the catwalk circling the cabin. The forest should have sung with cicadas. Instead, hush pressed like pillow over ears. Lightning strobed, and in that split second, a second tower silhouette flickered on the adjacent ridge where no structure stood on topo maps, twin to Cascade Peak. But its beacon pulsed blood red. Darkness returned, and the ridge emptied to ordinary timber. When the lightning flashed again, the phantom tower reappeared closer, half the distance, its shape sharper, windows lit amber. I retreated inside, slammed door, latched 3 times. At 1:22, every window pane bleached white with continuous lightning that never faded, as if the cloud froze mid-flash. In that harsh glare, I noticed new fingerprints on the radio log, small, soot-dark ovals marching down the margins beside the penciled reply received entries. The prints ended at tonight's date, space blank beneath. The Motorola clicked alive, no static, only the ticking from earlier amplified, now accompanied by heavy breaths paced with the clock of my pulse. A voice, older this time, muttered coordinates drifting half a mile northwest, my tower's precise drift if wind toppled it. The breaths grew louder, morphing into laboured exhales like bellows fueling coals. Wood groaned underfoot. I dared glance at floorboards. Dust sifted upward through knotholes, rising grains shimmering in lightning freeze. Something massive scaled the tower legs, weight sending tremors up support beams. Nails squealed. The cabin tilted 2 degrees. I keyed transmit, wide open, yelling Mayday into every channel. My signal fed back, creating a chorus of myself looping into shrieks. Between echoes, a stranger's calm baritone informed relay established. Tower 2 now online. Window panes darkened as the eternal lightning blinked out. When they brightened again from a fresh bolt, the phantom tower stood 30 yards away on thin air, level with my catwalk, its silhouette overlapping mine like double exposure. In its window I saw another me, gaunt, eyes reflective, holding a handset, mouth ticking as my radio did. He raised his free hand and tapped the glass 5 times. My own cabin wall answered with identical knocks from the outside. The floor dipped, a beam cracked downstairs, reflex pushed me onto the catwalk, wind howled up the ladder, smelling of burnt creosote. Below, shadows like tar ran across rung braces, coalescing into stubby silhouettes climbing. I scrambled down the opposite ladder, boots skipping rungs until I hit dirt. The phantom tower's legs rooted inches from the real ones, merging timber into a skeletal lattice, dripping resin. Inside its lantern room my doppelganger watched, eyes now hollow sockets wired with red sparks. He keyed his mic, the child voice returned, chanting, Tower 2 copies, Tower 2 copies, until language devolved to static clicks. I sprinted toward the service trail, flashlight off, trusting muscle memory. Behind, wood imploded as something colossal wrenched support beams free. A crack like splintered planet boomed. Through treetops I glimpsed both towers tilting toward each other, frames merging mid-fall, then vanishing before impact, as if swallowed by mist mid-air. The forest lights returned, bugs, wind, distant creak. No crash, no debris. Dawn patrol found me at the trailhead shaking. We returned. Only concrete footings remained, bolts sheared clean, cabin gone. Radio logs undisturbed except the fresh fingerprint column ending at my line, graphite dark. Engineers blamed wind shear. Yet the dispatch archive recorded a 30-second transmission at 1:23, my call sign reporting relay complete followed by dual breaths, 1 child, 1 baritone, and coordinates for a ridge 20 miles east where a decommissioned lookout burned in 1967. They chalked it to crosstalk. I live at sea level now, but VHF scanners sometimes open on their own, pouring out 5 slow knocks and my old call sign. If I don't answer, lightning flickers in clear skies, and every reflective surface nearby dims as though another tower cranes closer, seeking parity. I keep radios unplugged, yet the air still hums on stormless nights with the promise that some relays never terminate. They just wait until the right voice completes the rhyme and the ridges accommodate another lonely structure built from echoes. Early in the pre-dawn hours of April 5, 2023, while working a temporary contract for the National Archives off-site storage facility in Lenexa, Kansas, a former limestone mine converted into miles of subterranean record stacks, I volunteered for an overtime shift to inventory mislabeled banker boxes in Sector E17, one of the oldest caverns dug before modern ventilation. Management paired me with nobody. The other clerks hated the dust down there, and I figured solitude meant faster completion and a bigger paycheck. After swiping my badge through the chain-link gate at 2:07 a.m., I wheeled a fluorescent work light and barcode scanner between towering shelves that rose 20 feet, each packed tight with grey cartons stamped decades before I was born. Concrete underfoot stayed cool year-round, but an odd humidity clung to Sector E17, making my mask taste like wet paper. The task was simple. Scan a box, verify its manifest inside, print a new label. I'd knocked out 2 rows when the Wi-Fi handheld stuttered, lagging each scan. Signal usually bounced off repeaters mounted on blast press ceilings, yet my status bar showed full. The next box registered immediately, then a second barcode. Auto-populated, one I hadn't scanned, reference number A237 Echo. I flipped the carton. No such sticker. Thinking software glitch, I cleared the entry, tried again, the phantom code repopulated, and an alert pinged misfile detected, shelf in overflow. Overflow sat 5 aisles deeper, a cul-de-sac reserved for documents awaiting shredding approvals. I'd never been there. No overhead lights installed, but my work lamp's LED would suffice. Rolling the cart down rows, I noted small details out of place. Dust swirls, disturbed as if someone had dragged fingertips along shelf edges moments before. At the mouth of overflow, the concrete narrowed into a natural alcove where rough limestone still jutted like vertebrae. Shelves ended abruptly, leaving a single wooden rack braced against the rock wall, only 5 levels, each holding one unlabeled banker box coated in soot. My handheld chirped, instructing place misfile on open shelf. Which open shelf? I wondered. All 5 occupied. Then I saw it. The top shelf's box sat half an inch forward, a gap begging to receive. I reached to slide it back and make room, but the carton stuck like glued. When I pulled harder, the lid popped ajar, wafting an iron scent. Inside lay reel-to-reel audio tape labelled Cascade Peak Reply, July 1967, the same phrase I remembered from last night's doom scrolling about haunted lookout towers. Heart thudded. I'd never heard of that collection. Beneath the reel rested a Polaroid snapped in low flash. A firewatch cabin silhouetted against lightning, and in its window a figure identical to me, headset on. My brain tried to square the coincidence when the handheld beeped again. Volume maxed. Display now reading, return yourself to proper shelf. The work lamp flickered. Luminous buzz deepened to a cassette-like whine. From the aisle behind came the drag of cardboard sliding. I pivoted. Rows I'd passed moments earlier now each had one box, protruding exactly half an inch, creating a breadcrumb path back toward the sector gate. Every carton rattled faintly, as if shifting contents to face me. My breath fogged through the mine's climate, never dipped below 60. A low click echoed, sounded like a tape recorder playhead engaging. The reel inside the open box began to spin, though no power fed it. Magnetized rust whispered through oxide, my voice from childhood reciting multiplication tables, squeaky and uncertain. Box lids along the row lifted in relay, each revealing reels labelled with other dates from my life. Driver's test day, college orientation, events never recorded. The shelves themselves creaked, timber seemingly expanding, and I realized every open gap matched my body's width. Instinct screamed flight. I shoved the work lamp forward, its wheels locked, refusing to budge. The handheld issued a final instruction, shelving incomplete, file pending intake. Screen background replaced by live video of my current position filmed from overhead, impossible angle. In the feed, a shadow loomed behind me, tall Archivist lab coat, no head. Instead, spools of tape unwinding upward like antennae. I spun but saw only stacks. When I looked back at the screen, the feed zoomed tighter, showing the shadow closing the gap. I dropped the scanner, it continued streaming from the floor. Weight shifted on the top shelf. The sailor reel toppled, tape spewing down like viscera, loops cinching my wrist. The iron smell intensified, now coppery blood warm. I slashed at the magnetic ribbon with a box cutter. Each slice released echoing audio snippets, dispatcher mayday calls, elevator alarms, wax museum phrase from viral threads. As ribbons hit concrete, they crawled toward my boots, snaking up calves with static crackles. A fresh cardboard scrape announced shelves rearranging, rows irised, converging so aisles shortened, pushing me toward the wooden rack. The open slot where I'd meant to place the misfile widened, cardboard jaws yawning. On the inner wall of the box, someone had written with label maker tape, "Fill here, voice ready." I clawed backward, snagging my safety harness on a protruding shelf bracket. The fabric held me inches from the precipice. Overhead, fluorescence guttered out. Only the handheld screen glowed, showing the shadow now standing inside my skin, wearing me like tracing paper. In a shared voice, it whispered, "Chronology requires balance." Tape loops tightened around my throat. With last clarity, I yanked the battery from the lamp. The filament burst, showering sparks onto the ribbon, igniting a brief chemical flare. Shelves recoiled, gaps snapping shut, tape ribbons shriveling. Emergency strobes kicked on sector-wide, high-pressure fans engaged, howling a silence-obliterating roar. Smoke triggered sprinklers, water doused magnetic strands, stink of burnt plastic rising. Security arrived 10 minutes later, finding me collapsed at the overflow entrance, wrists striped red by something thin. Boxes back in place, lids closed, no wooden rack found, just limestone wall. My badge log recorded a single action at 2:13 a.m. Item filed. Footage from hallway cams showed me pushing an empty cart into E17 but leaving it stacked full. Those boxes now sit in quarantine. Each refuses barcode scan. System autofills code A237 Echo before crashing. Admins think I keyed a prank virus. I've resigned, yet whenever I open a desk drawer at home, file folders subtly shuffle inward, leaving a slot exactly my size, and the hum of a reel-to-reel whispers multiplication tables in the dark between breaths, as if waiting to complete the archival collection with its final, most current tape. Some stories stay filed away until they decide you belong on the shelf beside them. If these true horrors kept you listening past midnight, like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, because the next sound you hear in the silence might be a drawer sliding open for you.